Hey there guys, I am SonicGhost and welcome to a bonus episode of Let's Play Splatoon 2 Octo Expansion. In this video, our Octoling has made it to Inkopolis Square, as last time around, we made our way out of the Deepsea Metro and participated in our very first turf war here as an Octoling. So now we can join our peers here in Inkopolis Square and do whatever we want. Minus Samrun, seems that they're closed today. Man, my timing really wasn't that great to get out of the subway system, it seems. Speaking of the subway system, I did see this present box just sitting on the outside of it, so let's go ahead and examine the box. Here we got ourselves a whole bunch of the collectibles that we were getting for collecting all the mem cakes throughout our journey. So here we got ourselves the Octo Shades, Neo Octoling Armor, Neo Octoling Boots, no visor replica, no armor replica, no boots replica, old-timey hat, old-timey clothes, old-timey shoes, and the conductor cap. We can use all these pieces of gear now in the multiplayer modes, both as an Inkling and as an Octoling, as last time around when we did escape the Deepsea Metro and made our way here to Inkopolis. We can now make our way over into the options screen and go down to player settings. And as we come into here to change our player, we have a choice now between the Inklings and the Octolings. So now we can go ahead and customize our designs to whatever form that we want and not just the gender. So we're going to stick with our Octo girl we had leaving the Deepsea Metro, because honestly, I'm a big fan of the Octoling designs here in Splatoon 2, especially the female design. I just really like a lot of the hairstyles that the Octo Girl has. They're just some of my favorites in Splatoon 2. But there's another thing about the Deepsea Metro entry point that I want to go ahead and talk about. That's if we come back over here, we can go ahead and listen closely and make our way back into the Deepsea Metro, as there's some extra stuff we can do in here now that we made our way to Inkopolis Square. It's been a while, Agent 8. Glad to see you're still alive and kicking. I got curious how things were down here. And you know, this place has grown on me. Where's who? Oh, Agent 3 has business to finish up and headed back out on patrol. If there's anything you got left to do down here, I'll be glad to offer my support. Number 10,008. Nice to have you aboard. We applaud all your previous efforts. It seems that you've safely achieved your goals. Unfortunately, Camberbow Core is in disarray. But thankfully, Deepsea Metro service has continued without interruption. All we do for the satisfaction of our customers. Please allow me to announce a new service that we just begun to offer. This service allows you to exchange CQ points for items. We have a nice selection of premium offerings that should prove quite useful. This service is available at Deepsea Metro Central Station. I encourage you to stop by. This brings my announcement to a close. Safe travels, my friend. Well, this is interesting. Somewhere in the Deepsea Metro, you hear the sound of a door opening. Wonder what that could be. But there's also something else going on my CQ80, so what is this about? Have you noticed number 10,008? Another new service, Mem Metal data, has been added to the Deepsea Metro map. Stations marked with a blue circle are worth a visit. Once you arrive, simply speak to me on the station platform. May your journey be a pleasant one. Man, there's a lot to unpack here, so you know what? Let's go ahead and start off with the first thing here, and that's this new service that Sea Cucumber's talking about. So let's make our way to Brute Roll-Up Station, as that's where we're seeing one of these metal icons here on our map. So here it really doesn't matter what weapon we pick, as we're not going to be using it actually, so we'll just select the first one here, the Carbon Roller. Welcome! Take this Mem Medal as a token of our appreciation for visiting so many stations. These medals can be exchanged for items at Deepsea Metro Central Station. So we got ourselves a mem medal. We can try using this at the Deepsea Metro Central Station. We can get these mem medals because we completed every single level here in Octo Expansion. You get access to more of these medals depending on how many levels in Octo Expansion you've beat. Since we beat them all, there's a total of 10 of these medals we can go ahead and get. So let's go around the Deepsea Metro and collect them all. So to save us all some time, we're going to be just jumping around from station to station here. So here at Hasta La Vista Station, let's go ahead and grab our mem medal, making medal number 2. So while we're jumping around to every single level here, there are a couple different things to talk about when it comes to these mem medals. For starters, these 10 mem medals that you unlock from beating Octo Expansion, they are in these set levels that we are going to now. So these will always appear at the very end of Octo Expansion. No matter how you're playing the game, it's always going to be this set of 10 levels here that these medals are located in. You need to get to these levels and beat them for the mem medal to be able to be collected, as we are doing here. So, since we've beaten every single level in Octo Expansion, there's no problem for us to even get to any of these mem medals at all, because they're all just readily available. All we gotta do is just go back to each one of these stations that have the said medals and grab them. So for our sake, we're just going around the 10 different stations, grabbing a medal real quick, going back to the Deepsea Metro station, and then we're just selecting the next level in the lineup. But I should be mentioning, you can pause the game to go back to train anytime when playing these levels, but you can walk back to the train car and press the A button to go back to the train instead. Not very much of a reason for you to go back to the train and then press the A button to just go back instead of just pausing the game, but it is a nice little extra thing. It kind of feels a little more like world building for you to be able to just turn around and just get back on the train that you came here on. It's a nice little touch. It's a little unnecessary, but it's very nice to have regardless. While we're also jumping around for these mem medals, I do want to mention that every single station we're grabbing a mem medal from, Sea Cucumber will say the same thing, so unfortunately you don't get any extra dialogue for beating these stations. It would have been nice to get dialogue per level saying, for beating this station, you get this Deepsea Metro mem medal. But unfortunately, it's all the same copy and pasted text. Nothing really personalized or even just different in any fashion. But this is your reward for playing through these 10 specific stations and being able to get this far into Octo Expansion in general. So this is a nice little extra we get just for playing these specific levels in Octo Expansion. And they're really worth it too. Once we get back to the central station, then we'll be able to see what exactly these mem medals will unlock for us. And being able to just see exactly what we're getting out of all this is going to be really worth it for us to go around and get all 10 of these. It could take a while to do, hence why we're just jumping from station to station instead of heading back into the train car every time, opening back up the Deepsea Metro map and selecting the next station in the lineup. That extra little time in between for the video's sake would actually add on a couple extra minutes of just loading. And keep in mind, this game doesn't have terribly long load times on the Switch. I'm playing this game via the physical release of Splatoon 2, but Octo Expansion is downloadable content, so I am loading content that's on system memory along with cartridge memory too. So a combination between the two, you're seeing the loading times here. They're not that terrible. It's a little bit slower than playing a full-on digital copy of Splatoon 2, but it's still not really that bad. This is perfectly fine in my books. But Sweet Ride Station is our final station we need to head to here to get our last mem medal of the bunch. So once we're done talking to Sea Cucumber here, this will mark our final mem medal collected. So now we have 10 mem medals in total. So let's go ahead and make our way to the central station portion of the Deepsea Metro. So making our way back into Central Station, the first thing we're going to notice is the destroyed blender that was supposed to send our way to the Promised Land. If the Promised Land was the afterlife, because it definitely wouldn't have done that. But if we get closer to it, we have a remember prompt You press the A button here, we can remember the fight, remember the light, or just forget about everything and leave. So if we hit remember the fight, we'll be taken back to the final stretch of Splatoon 2 Octo Expansion. And going back through this set area, there's some stuff I want to go ahead and talk about when it comes to the final stretch of levels here in Octo Expansion. So making our way through all of the 7 different phases here for the ending stretch of Octo Expansion, I want to go ahead and start things off by just dying immediately. This may sound like a very weird thing to do, but I want to go ahead and fill up that skip charge meter. Every death counts towards 20% towards that meter. So dying a total of 5 times will fill it from 0% to 100%. Now we have an option to skip to the next phase. So if we hit the X button, we can go ahead and skip this phase. Agent 8 was able to keep out of sight and sneak past the enemies. All it took was for Agent 8 to just jump down a cliff 5 total times, and then they were able to evade enemy detection. You can go ahead and skip to the next phase of every single level here in the ending section of Octo Expansion. Unlike in the main set of levels for Octo Expansion, where Marina can hack her way to the next section if you fail too many times in a level, there's not really any consequences for skipping to the next phase. In fact, really the only thing you're missing out on if you skip to the next phase here is that little sequence we saw earlier on when we went back into Deepsea Metro, where we heard something unlocking somewhere in Central Station. That unlock will not happen if you skip these phases. Outside of that, though, there is no consequences to skipping these levels in their entirety. So if you're finding a specific level here in the ending section of Octo Expansion to be too difficult, you can die a total of 5 times and skip to the next phase. Just like how Marina can help hack her way through any of the levels in Octo Expansion if you die a total of 2 times. So this is one of those situations where some people may be mixed on this kind of a feature. Some people may appreciate this, some people may not. I'm personally in the camp finding that this feature is perfectly fine to have in a game like this. Octo Expansion is a pretty difficult piece of downloadable content here for Splatoon 2. Some of these levels can be pretty challenging, especially for a new timecomer of Splatoon. So having the option to skip past a level you're just struggling on and you want to get a move on in general in the game, just having an option like this, I do appreciate. You don't actually need to use this kind of an option, as if you hit the X button to skip to the next phase, you do get asked, are you sure about this, before you say yes to skip the level. If you decide you don't want to skip the phase after all, you can just select the restart from checkpoint option, which will put you right back into the level at your last checkpoint, resetting your skip phase counter back to 0%. So you'd have to die another total of 5 times to skip to the next phase once again. So there's no consequences if you hit the X button and decide later you don't want to actually skip the next phase. You could just restart from the last checkpoint and tough out the level. But if you do decide to skip the phase, you do get some nice extra flavor text describing how Agent 8 somehow managed to make it through that phase and moved on to the next level. Which I do like that nice attention to detail, giving you a little bit of a story reason as to what happened in the level for Agent 8 and telling you how they made their way to the next phase in question. Instead of just putting you into the next level, they try to tell you how Agent 8 made it to the next level. So even though you're skipping some story, you do get told at least a new piece of story. But we can skip all the way to the final fight here. So now after a fiercely fought battle against Agent 3, we make our way to the final level in Octo Expansion, the turf war against Commander Tartar. But the question becomes, what happens if you fail this battle against Commander Tartar and you don't destroy all the hyper bombs in time? No! Inkopolis! So if you do not destroy all the hyper bombs in time in that final fight, Commander Tartar wins. He destroys Inkopolis, and you lose the battle. And from here, you instantly fill your skip phase meter from 0% to 100%. Failing once in the final battle, you can decide to skip this phase, and by doing so, Agent 8 covered a massive weaponized statue in ink. And with that, you beat Octo Expansion. Skipping this phase in the boss fight, you instantly win Octo Expansion, skipping out on the entire final battle. So if you find that final battle to be too difficult, you can even skip past that. I don't recommend doing it because the turf war against Commander Tartar is one of the highlights of Octo Expansion, and skipping it just seems wrong to me. This is one of those situations where I will recommend toughing it out and fighting until you win. But now I want to go ahead and talk about some of the things that you can do in some of these levels in the final section of Octo Expansion, as there's some crazy stuff you can do in certain phase levels here at the ending stretch. So here in the Villi phase, I want to go ahead and talk about one of the biggest skips in the Octo Expansion speedrun. This right here, as I'm about to do, is called the Octo Shot skip. So when you get the bombs, you can go ahead and immediately make your way over to the doorway that leads to the ending of this phase. So what you can do here is climb up to the very top, which is a little tricky to do, but every time you're climbing up a wall, you will push ink ever so slightly up, and you have just enough clearance to be able to get to the top of this platform. Now from here, we want to go ahead and throw bombs at the corners of these walls, and by doing so, the spread shot ink from the splat bombs have a chance to actually hit this switch on the door. These are extremely precise shots, and a lot of the times you just have to pray that the physics work in your favor, where the ink will go more towards the door switch than anywhere else. And this can take quite some time to actually get down, and it can be very luck dependent, but sticking it out, you can go ahead and skip the Octo Shot in its entirety and just beat this level with only splat bombs. If you can do that real fast, then skipping the Octo Shot here is a much faster way to play through this level than going out of your way to get the Octo Shot. And if you manage to skip the Octo Shot, going into the next level here, you will just have it automatically. As going to the belly phase, the game assumes that you have the Octo Shot, so it just gives it to you. Here at the last checkpoint of the intestinal phase, we need to go ahead and hit this switch on the ground to open up the doorway to our launch pad area. But here, we can just barely reach our way around the lasers by shooting the wall and climbing it with ink. There is a very small window between the hitboxes on those lasers, and if you can squeeze right inside of them, then you can go ahead and skip that part entirely. At the spinal phase here, when Pearl says a very specific line, we can go ahead and jump off the side of the elevator. And if we jump off the elevator before it reaches the top, then we actually push the elevator up ever so slightly, skipping some extra dialogue here. This is called elevator skip, and by doing this, you can save some time in a speedrun to get to the Agent 3 fight. So by doing this, you can just start the fight a little bit sooner. It's not that much faster than just riding out the elevator, but if you want to save a few seconds in your speedrun of Octo Expansion, then go for elevator skip. But one last thing I want to go ahead and talk about when it comes to the remember section here is if we remember the light, we will be put into the credit sequence of Octo Expansion. So if you ever wanted to revisit the credits and just watch back this scene at any time, remember the light and it'll take you straight back to the credit scene here. And if you're done watching these credits and you want to just get back into the gameplay, you can go ahead and press the plus button and it'll take you back to the central station. So that's everything I wanted to go ahead and talk about when it came to the remembering section of the ending of Octo Expansion. So with that all done, let's go ahead and talk to Captain Cuttlefish over here. Represent one time for Megapolis Square. I like Octos more now than I ever did dare. It's strange for a squid my age to admit, but you Octos really aren't half bad. I want to help build a bridge of peace between Inklings and Octolings. I hear you can get some good deals in that vending machine. Well, that's a good segue. Thank you, Cuttlefish, as that's our next point that we want to go ahead and make our way over to. This vending machine here. We can go ahead and investigate it, and we're told we can exchange one of our mem medals for an item. So let's go ahead and do that. Here we got ourselves a drink ticket. we can use this back in Ecopolis Square. So that's ticket number 1. That will always give you a drink ticket, but what kind of drink it is always random. Go ahead, trade our Mem Metal away. Here we get 20,000 CQ points, which we can use these at the vending machine, so how convenient. Go ahead, trade another one of our metals. And here we got ourselves 3 ability chunks. The ability chunk you get here is random, but you'll always get 3 of the same kind of chunk. So that's for that said Mem Metal. Trading another one here, Mem Metal number 4, gives you 20,000 in cash. So that's a lot of money. I can definitely take that and use it for the multiplayer mode. Our 5th Mem Metal gives us 3 drink tickets. Again, the drink tickets you get here in question will be random, but you will always get 3 drink tickets for the 5th Mem Metal. Trading away number 6 here, our 6th metal gives us 5 ability chunks, which will always be the same, but the chunk itself will be a random value. So we got ourselves some ink saver on that. Trading our way number 7 here, the 7th metal gets us a food ticket here. Specifically, the 1 Galactic Sandwich food ticket, which will increase your experience by 150% when used. Go ahead, trade away another Mem Metal. Number 8 here is 40,000 in cash. Man, as soon as I get back to the surface, I'm gonna be rich. Trade away Mem Metal number 9, and we get ourselves a food ticket here, which is the triple fried schwaffle food ticket thing. So we get a lot of money here if we equip this ticket. Now it's time for our final Mem Metal. Trade this away, and we'll get 14 drink tickets. 1 of each ability chunk in Splatoon 2. So that is everything that we can get here from the vending machine in some kind of an order, because now we can exchange 15,000 CQ points for an item. At this point, it could be anything. And it's money! 8,000 gold is not bad. So at this point, this is what we'll be using our CQ points on. The trade away for items here in the vending machine. You can get money, tickets. That's about it. You really don't get anything besides money and tickets on this, so if you don't need anything extra, oh, and ability chunks too, we can never forget those. If you don't need that stuff, then you don't have to bother with the vending machine. But now we have a use for all of our CQ points, as at this point in the game, we're not playing any more levels in the Deepsea Metro. But I did notice over here, one of these lockers, there's something inside of it, and it's glowing. This must have been that thing we heard open up in Central Station. So let's investigate it. Your memories of that day, 2 years ago, have returned. Now, prepare to ride those squidtastic roofs once again. Going back into the depths of our memory, back in the wee old days of Splatoon 1 on the Wii U in 2015. This here is the battle against Inner Agent 3. This is a secret final boss you unlock for beating every single level in Octo Expansion. Phase 1 here. Inner Agent 3 will be shooting you and then use the Inkjet special ability. One thing you have to be mindful of is every single phase here, Inner Agent 3 will jump into the arena with splashdown, so don't get too close to where Inner Agent 3 is going to jump in. They will also be using auto bombs as their bomb type, so you don't want to be getting a little too lax in this fight. Just keep your eyes on your surroundings because there could be an auto bomb everywhere. Phase 2, Inner Agent 3 will use the Bubble Blower special, and here in Phase 3, they will be using Auto Bomb Bomb Rush. So, just when you think there's not enough auto bombs on the field, Inner Agent 3 will send out an army of them to attack you. Phase 4 here, Inner Agent 3 will be using Tenta missiles, and the only way for us to damage them is to throw splat bombs up on the UFO that they are sitting on. This one can be a little tricky because getting the splat bomb aimed just right and avoiding all these Tenta missiles while keeping your ink filled just enough to throw a splat bomb, that's a lot of stuff to juggle. But here in the final phase, Inner Agent 3 will be jumping all around the arena using splashdown multiple times. Stay behind a wall anytime you see Inner Agent 3 use a splashdown, as by hiding behind a wall, you will not get hit by that said splashdown. So just keep on dodging things, hide behind cover, and take shots whenever you can at Inner Agent 3. There we go! And with that, that is Inner Agent 3 defeated. The biggest thing I can say about that fight is be patient. Don't always rush headfirst in, as that may not always be the best idea. Keep your distance, wait for your openings, and strike when you can. You defeated the hero within yourself. You feel like the freshest Octoling ever. And for being the freshest Octoling ever, you get the golden toothpick to wear in the multiplayer mode. Poke in your hair and get styling. And with that, that's everything we can do here in the Deepsea Metro. There is nothing left for us to do down here in the subway station. We're all done. So I guess it's time for us to hop back onto our subway train one final time to make our way back to Inkopolis Square. As now, we've kind of wrapped up a nice little bow on Agent 8's experience here in the Deepsea Metro. So I guess now we can take a look at our magazines behind us. We can go ahead and imagine Inkopolis. Instead of imagining it, we can go there now in person. Thank you guys for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.